Hello, aloha. Thank you so much for stopping by, tuning in, sharing your presence. It's an honor to meet you here. My name's Sydney. I am a psychic energy healer, embodiment facilitator, author. I'm here to help. I'm here to serve. Let's go. It's been a wild May, and we are really feeling it. Everybody I know has been going through it big time. So I hope that you're taking good care and really taking as much space as you need to rest and just take care of yourself and let the feelings come through that are being cleaned out, the emotional patterns, and in some cases, like really addictive emotional patterns, they're coming up to be released and really felt and integrated. And it has been big. I had the biggest cry last night. It was such a relief, and it took me a little bit to get there. It's not always the most comfortable feeling when you know you have to cry, but it's like not coming out. And maybe you relate, maybe this has happened for you recently too. What really helped me last night to let that energy out was just to like start to speak really sweetly, lovingly to myself. I was in a really safe, comfortable place where I could rest, and I was, winding down for bed, and I just started to really be a loving parent and presence for myself. And it allowed this aspect of my inner child to come out and just express, so much sadness, so much grief, this feeling of, I've never felt at home. I will never feel at home. And what were some of the other feelings? Like, everything I do, it's never enough. Nobody sees me. But really, the deepest one was the feeling of, I'm not in the right place. I'm not at home. I'll never be at home. We're just going right into it, aren't we? But it's very alive, This is what embodiment is about, my friends. It's not a conceptual process. It's not. No. We're here to be alive, embodied, powerful beings. To really meet yourself, to really connect with your authenticity, with your intuition. It requires deep intimacy. We're invited into deep intimacy with ourselves. And if we want to have enriching, nourishing, beautiful relationships with each other, we got to meet ourselves, right? We can only meet others as deeply as we've met ourselves. I love that saying. And it's so true. And I was reflecting earlier on how, in 2017, I started teaching inner child healing retreats. I would do these 4-day immersions all over the world, actually. And they were so profound. And I'm so grateful to, have witnessed so many people be willing, to meet in that type of depth and authenticity, because it's scary, that kind of vulnerability to really want to meet yourself in that light and touch all of those aspects of shame and guilt and fear and avoidance and whatever the trauma patterns are that keep you from being fully connected to yourself. It's really scary to explore those energies and imprints, especially with other people. It can feel very exposing, and it's brave. So thank you to all those beings that have journeyed with me over the years and all the retreats we've done, so many, and workshops and gatherings. I'm so grateful. And also have so much compassion just for, for all of us now. It feels, I'll just speak from my own experience, and I wonder if you relate. Feel free to drop a comment, question, let me know if this lands. I feel like so much of our energetic evolution, let's contain it in 2025 so far, it's for me really been about this deeper cultivation of my boundaries within myself, within my, inner aspects. And the framework that's worked really well for me that I'm, practicing and refining is this idea of a loving inner family, a loving parent. Some of you may know this from internal family systems. I'm referencing the 12-step program of adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families. Incredible, incredible resources and all of these different modalities. And I'm so grateful that these tools and references are becoming more mainstream, and people are more aware of parts work and things like this. And I really want to speak to this notion of, the inner critical parent and the inner loving parent and then the inner family. And that, just try it on and see if it resonates for you as something you might utilize as a tool or a modality. You can explore and choose your own adventure. For so long, I didn't even realize that I had, the only voice I was listening to in my inner being and my awareness was this really critical, I used to call it a drill sergeant, and now I understand that that's the inner critical parent, and that was developed in trauma and pain and insane situations growing up in a really chaotic home and not having a lot of my basic needs met in terms of safety and attunement and emotional support and regulation. And this inner critical parent or inner critical voice developed, with a lot of perfectionism and stress and self-sufficiency to really prevent pain, as best it could, as best it knew how, and was formed so early on. I'm talking like between ages 0 and 7 for sure, that this was really cultivated, and it did its best it could do to help me survive, an impossible situation. And I'm sure a lot of that was also inherited from those who came before me, my parents and their parents, who were, a series of, it's like many generations of people that were under resourced and not fully supported in, ways that they deserved to be. And so, long story short, we grow up and we have this inner critical voice, and it can lead to perfectionism and just so much stress and compulsion and net feeling never enough and just compulsive need to prove oneself and always be busy and always be performing and just overworking, workaholism, addiction, obsessive compulsive disorders and all kinds of different things, and just can cause so much pain, all coming from this seemingly really innocent origin of wanting to protect us and keep us safe. But then when we're adults and we want to have healthy relationships and healthy relationships to work and to our value and self-esteem, this doesn't work anymore. And a lot of people now are awakening to this, method of survival no longer working. Usually happens through an emotional bottom or spiritual bottom where you're like, I can't anymore. I can't be fake anymore. I can't be a perfectionist anymore. I'm exhausted. Or your body will start to have some kind of physical symptom like, what is that? Fatigue or autoimmune or whatever's going on. And to get your attention, to stop, to feel, to take care of yourself, to change. And I really want to speak to just how humbling it is, I'm someone that's been in this work for many years. I, feel like I had no choice but to try every single modality and train and study and all the things over the years to just, anything that could help me feel like myself, and it's never ending. And I can't believe I was teaching inner child retreats back then, and I did the best I could with what I had, and we did a lot of really deep, powerful work, but just compared to even what I'm experiencing now in this work, I feel like what's available to us just by nature of the energy coming through on the planet and our consciousness has evolved with such greater capacity to understand and really just see more of the multidimensional perspective of who we are and why we're here, and we can just go so much deeper, and we really have access to so much more of our feeling body as well. Our sense multisensory capacities are more fully online. And so I just feel like a beginner again in some ways when some of this stuff can come up. And I really want to say that to other practitioners, facilitators, people on this path, and maybe some of these things don't sound so new, but it's okay if any of it at any point feels new, when you're really going into the deeper layers of cleaning out what is not, cleaning out the false self and the coping strategies and the inner criticism, inner critical voice, and the perfectionism or the control patterns. Sometimes it can feel like, this comes up for me sometimes, it can feel like, have I even done any work before? Like, this is really humbling what's going on and so vulnerable. It can be in a moment sometimes really hard to feel like, wait a minute, yes, I have a lot of resource and stability and support cultivated over many years, and I'm here and I'm supported, and you're not alone. So it's just a wild, wild journey, this cultivation of your inner world and your inner family, and starting to really develop a relationship with this inner loving parent. I love this invitation so much. That each of us has this inner loving parent, and it might even be the embodiment of you as this adult human that you are, that it's your ideal self or your God self, your higher self. And you're a mature, responsible, capable, healthy, brilliant adult, and you can take care of your inner family. You can take care of your inner child, your inner teenager, maybe yourself at different ages. And also that inner critical parent or inner critical voice, can also be taken care of and met with love, just like you would speak to a child having a tantrum, or someone having a really difficult time. Usually all that being needs that's having a tough time is loving presence and understanding, so there's a lot more that could be said about this. There's entire modalities and books and trainings. I wrote a ton about inner child healing in both of my books, The Empath Experience and I'm Ascending Now What, including tons of practices and writing exercises. Really great way to get in touch with inner child is through writing and kind of cultivating like a subconscious response. If you write with your non-dominant hand, that can be really powerful to hear the voice of the inner child. And then those other frameworks I mentioned, internal family systems, therapy, parts work, and then I love adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families for a 12-step recovery program. Super helpful and goes really, really deep in helping to reestablish true sense of self-worth and self-esteem and a feeling of safety to really be who you are and to be present and to no longer drain so much energy pretending to be who you think other people want you to be, and all those other kinds of codependent, coping mechanisms. So, yeah, I think that's complete for now, just to keep it a bit bite-sized. But if you want to go deeper, please check out all the resources I have below. And I hope this was helpful just as an invitation to start to consider, ways that you might be able to connect more with your inner being and your inner family and just start to really be in more of a conscious conversation with, these different aspects of yourself instead of letting one aspect, such as the inner critical voice, really dominate. We are so many more multidimensional aspects than even just that inner family. It's like this is the foundational piece, having a healthy relationship with your inner parent, or that sense of your, healthy adult self, and then your inner, children, teenager, even baby, infant. And then from there, I feel we can start to play with all of our other aspects, our more cosmic archetypes and angelic archetypes and all kinds of other magical elements that make up who we are, But it's just so much more fun and supported and resourced when we have this really solid foundation upon which our authenticity can flourish. All right. I hope this was helpful. If you resonate, please leave a comment, leave any questions. Please like and subscribe to stay tuned for future videos, more to come. And as always, thank you so much for your attention. I'll see you next time.